Alright, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So today I will make a video regarding my presentation of crime of aggression, which is under international criminal law subject that is taught by Mr. Shafiq Sulaiman. So before I started my presentation, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Hizra Nabihah binti Azhar and my metric number is 059205. So I would like to begin my presentation with the introduction. Okay, for the introduction, I stated that a crime of aggression or crime against peace is the planning, initiation, or execution of a large-scale and serious act of aggression using state military force. The definition and scope of the crime is controversial. The Rome Statute contains an exhaustive list of acts of aggression that can give rise to individual criminal responsibility, which include invasion, military occupation, annexation by the use of force, bombardment, and military blockade of ports. Aggression is generally a leadership crime that can only be committed by those with the power to shape a state's policy of aggression rather than those who carry it out. As stated by the philosophical basis for the wrongness of aggression is found in just war theory, in which waging a war without a just cause for self-defense is unjust. In the wake of the German invasion of the Soviet Union during World War II, Soviet jurist Aaron Trainin made the first successful proposal to criminalize aggression. The Charter of the International Military Tribunal provided criminal liability for waging aggressive war, which was the main focus of the Nuremberg trial. Other participants in World War II were tried for aggression in Finland, Poland, China, the subsequent Nuremberg trials, and the Tokyo trial. No one has been prosecuted for aggression either before or since the 1940s. It is generally accepted that the crime of aggression exists in international customary law. The definitions and the conditions for the exercise of jurisdiction over this crime by the International Criminal Court were adopted in 2010 at the Kampala Review Conference by the states parties to the court. Aggression is criminalized according to the statute law of some countries and can be prosecuted under universal jurisdiction. Aggression is one of the core crimes in international criminal law alongside genocide, crime against humanity, and war crimes. In 1946, the International Military Tribunal ruled that aggression was the supreme international crime because it contains within itself the accumulated evil of the whole. The standard view is that aggression is a crime against the state that is attacked, but it can also be considered a crime against individuals who are killed or harmed as a result of war. Alright, so now we are moving forward for the next slide, which I would like to explain more about the elements that I found in crime of aggression. So, the crime of aggression is defined in Article 8 in the Rome Statute of the ICC that is adopted at the 2010 Review Conference in Kampala. In essence, three elements are required. Okay, firstly, the for the first element, the perpetrator must be a political or military leader. The perpetrator must be a political or military leader. For example, a person in a position effectively to exercise control over or to direct the political or military action of a state. Secondly, the court must prove that the perpetrator was involved in the planning, preparation, intention, or execution of such a state act of aggression. So what I understand from the second element is the court must prove that the perpetrator is involved regarding with the definition crime of aggression, which is the planning, the preparation, initiation, execution of state act of aggression. Thirdly, the third elements about state, such a state act must amount to an act of aggression in accordance with the definition contained in General Assembly Resolution 3314, and it must, by its character, gravity and scale, constitute a manifest violation of the UN Charter. This implies that only the most serious forms of illegal use of force between states can be subject to the court's jurisdiction. Cases of lawful individual or collective self-defense, as well as action authorized by the Security Council, are thus clearly excluded. So now for the next slide, I would like to explain more about the Article 8 in the Rome Statute of the ICC, which is explain more about crime of aggression. So what is stated in the Article 8 is the purpose. The purpose of this statute, which is crime of aggression, means the planning, preparation, initiation, or execution by a person in a position effectively to exercise control over or to direct the political or military action of a state of an act of aggression which by its character, gravity and scale constitutes a manifest violation of the Charter of the United Nations. So from my understanding, purpose of this statute is just same with the elements that is stated in the first element of crime of aggression, which stated in the also stated in the Article 8 of Rome Statute, which is held at the review conference in Kampala. So for the second, the purpose for paragraph 1, act of aggression means the use of armed force by a state against the sovereignty, territorial integrity, or political independence of another state, or in any other manner inconsistent with the Charter of the United Nations. Any of the following acts, regardless of a declaration of war, shall, in accordance with the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 3314 of 14 December 1974, qualify as an act of aggression. So, firstly, the invasion or attack by the armed force of a state of the territory of another state, or any military occupation, however temporary, resulting from such invasion or attack, or any annexation by the use of force of the territory of another state or part thereof. Secondly, bombardment by the armed force of a state against the territory of another state, or the use of any weapons by a state against the territory of another state. Thirdly, the blockade of the ports or coast of a state by the armed force of another state. Fourth, an attack by the armed force of a state on the land, sea or air force or marine and air fleets of another state. Fifth, the use of armed force of one state which are within the territory of another state with the agreement of the receiving state in contravention of the conditions provided for in the agreement or any extension of their presence in such territory beyond the termination of the agreement. Next, the action of a state is in allowing its territory, which it has placed at the disposal of another state, to be used by that other state for perpetrating an act of aggression against a third state. Last but not least, the sending by or on behalf of a state of armed bands, group, irregular or mercenaries which carry out acts of armed force against another state of such gravity as to amount to the acts listed above or its substantial involvement therein. So I would like to add more about the crime of aggression, which I would like to revisiting the history of the crime of aggression in light of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Russia's 2020 invasion of Ukraine calls for renewed attention to the crime of aggression. Yet, while the crime is within the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, the ICC lacked jurisdiction in the present situation. The insight will briefly explore the history of the crime, why the ICC lacks jurisdiction in this situation, and possibilities for prosecution and increasing ICC jurisdiction over the crime. The crime was first prosecuted by the Allies before the International Military Tribunal at the Nuremberg, with former U.S. Supreme Court Justice Robert Jackson leading the prosecution on behalf of the United States. Indeed, the crime was the central focus of the Nuremberg trial, which changed crime against peace, as the crime was then called in count 1 of the indictment and conspiracy to commit crimes against peace in count 2. The crime was similarly central to the prosecutions before the International Military Tribunal for the Far East Tokyo, led by the United States. On December 1946, the UN General Assembly unanimously adopted Resolution 19+1 affirming principles of international law recognized in the Nuremberg Charter and Judgment. The crime was thereafter included in the Draft Code of Crimes Against the Peace and Security of Mankind by the International Law Commission, adopted into the Domestic Criminal Code of various states, and included in the ILC's early draft of what would become the ICC's Rome Statute. During the 1998 negotiation of the Rome Statute, it was agreed in Article 5, Clause 1 that there were 4 crimes within the jurisdiction of the court, as these were the most serious crimes of concern to the international community. However, while the definitions of genocide, crime against humanity, and war crimes were agreed on, something of a placeholder was left for the crime of aggression. Rome Statute Article 5, Clause 2, since agreed to be deleted, stated that before the ICC could exercise jurisdiction, there would need to be agreement on a definition and condition for the ICC's exercise of jurisdiction over the crime. This opened the way for the crime's jurisdictional regime to differ from of the ICC's other 3 crimes. Negotiations on this topic first occurred in meeting of the preparatory commissions for the International Criminal Court in 1999 until 2002, and between 2003 until 2009 before the Special Working Group on the Crime of Aggression. All states, not only states parties, were invited to attend the SWGCA negotiation, and the Russian Federation attended. So now I would like to moving forward to the conclusion. The crime of aggression over the crime went into effect on July 2000 and sorry. Okay. For conclusion, the crime of aggression is one of the 4 crimes over which the International Criminal Court has jurisdiction. In accordance with the Rome Statute on June 2010, states parties to the Rome Statute adopted a definition of the crime. In essence, a crime of aggression is committed when a political or military leader of a state causes that state to illegally use force against another state, provided that the use of force constitutes, by its character, gravity, and scale, a manifest violation of the United Nations Charter. Subsequently, on December 2017, states parties to the Rome Statute made the historic decision to enable the ICC to prosecute the crime of aggression. The ICC's jurisdiction over the crime of aggression went into effect on July 2018, which also marked in the 20th anniversary of the adoption of the Rome Statute. The court jurisdiction over the crime of aggression provides some measure of criminal accountability at the international level for this supreme crime for the first time since the Nuremberg and Tokyo trials. The following are the most important steps that led to this development, beginning with the seminal year 1945. Note, however, that there were already efforts to prohibit and criminalize illegal war making prior to 1945. That's all what I understand and my presentation for crime of aggression. I hope that what I explained in this video everyone can understand. Thank you.